Good afternoon. It's Thursday, the 4th of June. I'm Erin Viner, and this is IBA News broadcasting from Jerusalem. We opened with the escalating situation with Gaza that reignited after Palestinians fired missiles at Israeli communities again last night. IDF warplanes retaliated with overnight strikes against targets in the Gaza Strip, as Defense Minister Moshe Ya'alon repeated his warning that violent aggression of any kind will not be tolerated. We get more in this report from IBA's Dennis Zinn.
2 Grad rockets fired from the Gaza Strip exploded in open fields in the western Negev early yesterday evening, causing no damage and no injury. Within hours, the IDF attacked 3 terror bases in Gaza. Amongst the targets were 2 training facilities of the Hamas organization and another run by the Islamic Jihad terror group. No injuries and little damage was reported in those attacks too. Sources in the Gaza Strip revealed that following the rocket attack on Israel, all the terror organizations in Gaza expected the IDF response and evacuated their bases. This was the second time in a week that rockets were fired from Gaza, prompting Israeli retaliation. A little-known Sunni-affiliated Salafist group called the Omar Battalions claimed responsibility. Nevertheless, Defense Minister Moshe Ya'alon said he holds the Hamas rulers responsible for all that goes on in the Gaza Strip, and that Israel will consistently respond harshly to all aggression. According to Israeli intelligence sources, Hamas, including its military wing Izzadin al-Qassam, is actually interested in quiet for all sorts of reasons, such as to give it time to rearm after Operation Protective Edge. And as a result, friction between Hamas and the other terror groups has escalated. Earlier this week, as part of its campaign to ensure quiet, Hamas police forces killed an al-Qaeda-affiliated Salafist. Now, apparently, angry Salafists fired at Israel, knowing that the IDF would respond forcefully and punish Hamas for them. Dennis Zinn, IBA News.
Another controversy has erupted over the anti-Israel boycott, divestment, and sanctions campaign, as the French head of the Orange telecommunications operator said that if he could, he would gladly cut ties with Israel. We get more from IBA's Eli Wogelenter.
Education Minister Naftali Bennett is urging Israelis not to drop their mobile phone service with Orange, despite remarks by World Orange CEO Stefan Richard that he would end the company's franchise contract with Israel's Partner Communications if he could get away with it. Bennett said Partner is a victim, not a perpetrator, a purely Israeli company with 3,500 employees. All of the infrastructure, including towers and customer service, belong to Partner, and that the only relationship Partner has with World Orange is the licensing of its name. In Cairo, Richard told journalists, "Our intention is to withdraw from Israel. It will take time, but for sure we will do it. Believe me, I would cancel the contract tomorrow if I could." He added that the only reason Orange has not terminated its franchise contract with Partner was to avoid litigation in Israeli courts. Orange has been targeted by a BDS campaign in Egypt and several European countries. The BDS groups allege that the Israeli operation provided free phone calls to IDF soldiers fighting in Gaza during last summer's Operation Protective Edge. Richard was in Cairo to plead with customers not to leave the company. In a letter to Partner employees today, CEO Chaim Romano said that if Orange's owner, France Telecom, wishes to end its association with us, we will be happy to do so in return for the hundreds of millions of euros we have invested in the brand name Orange over the years. We will use this money to invest in our customers and citizens and our country. News of Orange's intentions to withdraw from Israel came as the Knesset held a session yesterday to address the worldwide BDS movement. During the heated Knesset debate, Justice Minister Ayelet Shaked told left-wing MKs there is currently a large-scale campaign to delegitimize against Israel and against its existence as a Jewish nation. Boycotters are not talking about Judea and Samaria, but the existence of the State of Israel. This is the new face of anti-Semitism. It's not politically correct to be anti-Semitic, but it's super in to be anti-Israeli. Shaked's speech was accompanied by quite a bit of vocal comments from the other MKs. Meretz MK Michal Rosen called on the Israeli government to take responsibility for Israel's part in the worsening of the international boycott, saying the government must internalize that the boycott is a wake-up call and not anti-Semitic propaganda against the state. Eli Wogelenter, IBA News.
Our reporter adds that Culture Minister Miri Regev is calling on French President François Hollande to show no tolerance for anti-Semitism and to fire the chief executive of Orange. She also urged Jewish customers of the company around the world to change carriers. And in related news, the university's UK umbrella group for institutes of higher education in Britain has announced its firm opposition to the boycotting of Israeli universities just one day after the National Union of Students voted to show support of the BDS campaign. Universities UK board members underscored their commitment to the free exchange of ideas between universities and academics, regardless of nationality or location, while acknowledging that in the interest of free expression, they do expect all educational facilities to uphold the fundamental right to question national and international policies. The name of the Palestinian suspected of stabbing 2 Jewish teenagers during the recent Shavuot holiday near the Damascus Gate into Jerusalem's Old City has just been released by the Shin Bet Security Service. He has been identified as 19-year-old John Kakish, who is a Christian Arab resident of the Old City, who reportedly admitted to carrying out the attack out of his desire to seek revenge against Jews. The Shin Bet added that Kakish has a record of previous arrests for additional assaults on other Jewish victims. Testimony in the trial of the 3 alleged murderers of 16-year-old Mohammed Abu Khader has begun at the Jerusalem District Court. The 30-year-old suspected ringleader, Yosef Chaim Ben David, and 2 unnamed minors are believed to have burned the teenager to death after kidnapping him from the Shuafat neighborhood of the capital on July 2nd of last year in nationalistically motivated murder to avenge the killings of 3 Jewish teenagers. One of the minor suspects told the court that he never dreamed that they were going to kill Abu Khader and that he was unable to say no to Ben David, with whom he held a close relationship. And that testimony was delivered on the same day as the awarding of the first annual Jerusalem Unity Prize in commemoration of the 1-year anniversary of the murders of the 3 Jewish teenagers, Naftali Frankel, Gilad Sher, and Eyal Ifrach. The victims' bereaved families are seeking to memorialize their sons by advancing programs to highlight the collective spirit of unity, yearning, and hope in the Jewish community during last summer's ordeal. IBA's Ari O'Sullivan discussed the 100,000 shekel award winners with Daniel Goldman, who is the chairman of the Gesher organization aimed at bridging societal gaps that facilitated the Jerusalem Unity Prize with the victims' families.
We have, for the International Prize, we have Bet Chabad from Bangkok, who receive Jews of every sort from every place in the world, and they make them sit down and chat together. We have David Menachem, who is a paitan and a chazan and a musician and a comedian, and he's a kind of walking unity show. We have Ram Shmueli, who is a senior general retired from the Air Force, who runs something called Mitchabrim, which basically runs dialogue around the country for all sorts of different people. And we have something called Nifgashim B'Shvil Yisrael. They meet on the path of Israel, and they, again, in memory of their son, they have groups that come together and walk the Shvil Yisrael all the way up and down, again, discussing all matters of society and how we live together.
You know, this is a very diverse community in Israel, from all sorts of, religious, non-religious, secular, Ashkenazi, Sephardi. Is this something that you can force, unity?
No. The whole idea, the concept which we're trying to talk about here is unity through difference. This is not about everybody needs to be the same. This is about understanding that every piece of the orchestra has a different voice. If we make space for that extra voice, that's how we make harmony. We spend a lot of time doing unity when there are rockets flying. We need to do it when the sun's shining as well. That's what today is all about.
And as part of Unity Day commemorations, students from the Mekor Chaim Yeshiva, where 2 of the murdered teens studied, visited secular high schools throughout the country for a day of dialogue and song. The group engaged in discussion about sentiments experienced during the murder abductions last summer at 170 classrooms at educational facilities in Jerusalem, Netanya, Tel Aviv, Kiryat Gat, and Maskeret Batya. The students then participated in a memorial service. Educational Minister Naftali Bennett was also on hand and explained the importance of the day to Arutz Sheva.
State can continue to thrive as if we're together. We had a Jewish state here 2,000 years ago, but we fought each other and we lost it. We're not going to lose it again.
Several hundred Israelis of Ethiopian descent held another demonstration against alleged police brutality and racism last night, this time outside the Azrieli Towers in Tel Aviv. Scuffles erupted after what began as a peaceful protest, and 7 people were arrested when demonstrators attempted to block the city's Begin Road, which is a major thoroughfare. Police said that they exercise zero tolerance toward those breaking the law and that the unauthorized demonstration was being held without a permit. The government must introduce both competition and price controls to the natural gas sector. This according to the chairman of the Knesset Finance Committee, Moshe Gafni, who led a discussion about the stalemate that has overtaken the field over the past several months. The deadlock comes as part of disputes between the country's natural gas companies and the government, sparked by the declaration from Antitrust Commissioner David Gillot that he would review whether dominance of the sector by the Delek and Noble Energy groups constitutes an illegally restrictive agreement. Gillot tendered his resignation a week ago due to disagreement with other governmental officials over the terms of a compromise plan with the national gas companies. Finance Minister Moshe Kahlon has taken the first step toward fulfilling one of his central campaign promises by announcing, with Bank of Israel Governor Karnit Flug, the creation of a committee to increase competition in the banking sector. The panel will be headed by former Antitrust Commissioner George Strum and is tasked with providing policy recommendations within 100 days. According to the finance minister, just 3 banks account for 70% of the 50 billion shekel sector. While he and Flug agree that the financial system is overconcentrated, they have voiced different views about how to deal with that problem. The main concern of the bank governor is to ensure stability in the financial system, and she's been very cautious about any reforms that could cause the banks to fail. Former mayor of Ramat Gan, Tzvi Bar, was today sentenced to 5.5 years in prison and ordered to pay a 1.5 million shekel fine following his conviction in February of corruption charges. The 80-year-old politician was found guilty of receiving 1.9 million shekels in bribes for advancing certain real estate projects. All of the offenses were committed during 2003 and 2008, while he was also serving as the director of several local and provincial planning agencies. Barr said that his conscience is clear, and he announced his intention to appeal the verdict. And in another case involving political corruption, the Tel Aviv District Attorney's Office has announced plans to put former Minister Binyamin Ben Eliezer on trial pending a hearing on charges of bribery, money laundering, fraud, breach of trust, and tax evasion. The scandal first surfaced just as Ben Eliezer announced his candidacy for the presidency. He is alleged to have demanded and accepted money from various businessmen between 2007 and 2014 in exchange for activities related to his positions as a member of Knesset and sometimes cabinet minister. A 2.5-meter high statue of Albert Einstein has been unveiled at Hebrew University of Jerusalem. The bronze likeness of the world-renowned physicist was placed on the Givat Ram campus to mark 100 years since the publishing of his theory of relativity and the 60th anniversary of his death. Einstein was one of Hebrew U's founders, and he bequeathed all of his papers to the institution. The chairman of the Einstein Archives, Professor Hanoch Gutfreund, said that despite his small stature, just like the statue, Einstein was larger than life.
It is very appropriate that we do it this year, because this year the whole world, the world of science, the world of culture, marks the 100th anniversary of Einstein's general theory of relativity.
What do you think about this statue? Does it represent his image?
Now the statue looks like him. I don't know what he would have said about the statue. He was a very humble man. Still, the statue has presence. The statue is located at the right place. You see, when you look at him here, he looks in that direction. In that direction, what he would see is the building of mathematics at the Hebrew University, which is also called the Einstein building. If he would look back, then he would see the depository of the knowledge of mankind, of the Jewish people, the library. And just behind the library, the Albert Einstein Archives. And that Albert Einstein Archives is the institution which houses all his documents and manuscript, everything that we bequeath to us. So this is an appropriate place, and this really gives a very great presence to this great man on this campus.
Now taking a look at the emerging case against the 26-year-old security guard who was shot and killed by law enforcement officials in Boston on Tuesday. And there is evidence to believe that Osama Rahim had intended to behead American police officers as part of what authorities say was his plan to wage violent jihad. This according to court papers filed against the suspect's alleged co-conspirator, 25-year-old David Wright, who has been charged with conspiring to obstruct a federal investigation and is believed to have not only been fully aware of Rahim's plans, but to have also advised him about how to cover his tracks. U.S. media is reporting that Rahim purchased 3 military-style knives and first planned to decapitate Jewish activist Pamela Geller, who is a vocal critic of Islam. Counterterrorism agents had Rahim under 24-hour surveillance and moved in on him after he was tipped off by one of his associates. Police say that he was shot in self-defense after refusing to drop his weapon and instead lunged at the officers. In other news, Palestinian refugees from Syria now living in the northern Lebanese city of Tripoli are protesting a reduction in financial assistance from the UN's Relief and Works Agency. UNRWA was forced to stop giving cash subsidies for food and housing to 43,000 refugees due to its own struggle to meet needs because of a shortage of funds. One former resident of the Yarmouk camp said that he and other Palestinians have endured great hardship over the past several years since fleeing Syria, and that the modest $100 in monthly assistance has been a critical source of support. Others say that they now fear increased desperation will drive more refugees to undertake dangerous attempts to illegally reach Europe by sea. Meanwhile, UNRWA officials are now appealing for greater contributions from the international community so that the program can be resumed.
Part of the reason why we went public with this decision a month before stopping the payment is that we're hoping partners will understand that this will have dramatic consequences for this very disadvantaged group of people, and that it will be possible as a result for partners to give us a bit more to continue or restart some form of assistance.
In other regional news, the highest appeals court in Egypt today ordered the retrial of ousted President Hosni Mubarak on charges that he failed to stop the killing of hundreds of protesters in 2011. November 5th has been set as the date for the beginning of the new trial, the verdict of which cannot be appealed. This will mark the third time that Mubarak will be prosecuted in connection with the uprising that ended his 29-year rule. The 86-year-old former leader has reportedly been in failing health since his arrest 4 years ago and currently resides at a military hospital alongside the Nile River just south of Cairo. The latest ruling comes 6 months after a criminal court dismissed murder charges against him, citing the inadmissibility of the case due to a technicality. The finding was a major setback for the young activists who spearheaded the so-called Arab Spring uprising in the Republic, many of whom are now in jail or have withdrawn from politics as a result of the ongoing crackdown by authorities. And the Jerusalem Light Festival got off to a rocky start last night as security forces were compelled to use stun grenades to disperse hundreds of Palestinians protesting against the event. 4 men were arrested and several protesters were pushed to the ground during the clashes, although no serious injuries were reported. The Light Festival will be open until Thursday and is an annual event organized by the municipality that attracts tens of thousands of spectators who come to enjoy cultural performances while stunning visual artworks are projected on the walls of the old city. While claiming that the municipality forces an Israeli identity during the festival, Palestinian youths organized a counter-event at the Damascus Gate last night where they held dance performances and activities for children. In local finance, the shekel today put in a mixed performance in foreign currency trading, while share prices on the Tel Aviv Stock Exchange were down across the board. Here's a look at the afternoon numbers. The IBA weather team says we can expect another lovely day tomorrow, pretty much just like today. Here's the forecast at home and abroad over the next 24 hours. Thank you for being with us this afternoon. We hope you'll join us again tomorrow, and I'll be back to bring you the latest breaking news from Israel. I'm Erin Viner, wishing you a great evening and shalom from Jerusalem.